Senator Pauline Hanson joins Six News now. Senator, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So One Nation doubles its Senate representation following this election. You've held on to Malcolm Roberts' seat. You've gained in WA. You've gained in New South Wales. And of course, the fourth seat, yours, is of course still there for another 3 years. What do you think that success is down to?
Well, I think over the past, 9 years that Malcolm and I have been in the Senate, we've built the party's representation. We've put policies out there. I think the policy we put out in February were encouraging to Australians, the cost of living, pensioners and veterans to be worked unlimited hours without affecting pension, middle income earners to actually do income splitting. Plus also you got, well, anyone could income split, but it was beneficial to people, up to $120,000 a year income in the household to save $10,000 a year. And of course, we didn't leave out self-funded independent retirees to raise their tax threshold from just over $18,000 up to $35,000. Looking at putting more money in the pockets of Australians, saving the economy about $90 billion a year. And I saw the Libs picked up our policy about the fuel excise tax, saving that on 25 cents, 26 cents a litre. So coming down to policies and, of course, our connection with the public over the period of time, getting our messaging out and, on what we've presented on the floor of Parliament, I think people are starting to understand what One Nation stands for and what we're wanting to achieve.
Labor, of course, did still win the election, granted with 34% of the national vote, but that still was an increase on 2022. They were the clear winners in a majority of seats. What do you think's down to their victory there? Because I think some of the analysis I've seen, I'm wondering if you agree, is that less so Labor won, more so the coalition just really, really lost.
True. Governments don't win elections, so basically it's the opposition that doesn't win it because of their poor performance of what they've done. The opposition, I thought, had a very, very poor campaign. I think they sat on the fence with a lot of the issues. They didn't bring out clear policies long beforehand. There was no pushback to do with the nuclear power that they wanted to. They let Labor get away with saying it was going to cost up to $600 billion when the price was around $116 billion. And, about the Medicare scare and wanting to sell off their assets, I just think that they had no fight in them whatsoever. And I think they've had poor, advice given to them. And also look at the public servants in Canberra, 42,000 that are working from home. And, they said, oh, well, we're going to get them back into the office. There was a bit of pushback with that. And what did they do? Dropped it. They absolutely dropped it. It's a feasible policy to say you get back working in the office. One bureaucrat or who works for the public service was actually travelling around the country in a caravan claiming they're working from home with their family and getting paid for it. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Why wasn't that point argued? They never did anything. Once they got a bit of pushback, they just buckled.
In terms of where One Nation sits results-wise outside of the two major parties and outside of the Greens, dominant over the other, I guess you'd call them the Freedom parties, about 5% of the vote more than your next best, which was Trumpeter Patriots, then Family First below them. I'm wondering, do you think now for voters who have been talking for a while about should these parties merge, should they form a coalition, do you think One Nation is now at a point where it's dominant enough that it can overtake the rest of them? You don't actually need these other parties. They more so need One Nation?
Leo, look, we've got similar policies. People say, why don't you join forces and all the rest of it? I think you leave yourself open to so much internal fighting. Factions will start within the party. I have no intentions of allowing that to happen. Now, I asked Jared Rennick to come on board with One Nation and asked him to stand second on the ticket to Malcolm Roberts. He didn't want that. He wanted me to discard Malcolm Roberts as number one on the ticket, someone I've had in there for 9 years, or he was out for a year and a half, and so he should take the place. And he didn't. He started his own political party and just given me nothing but hell or backlash because he's like a kid who's thrown the teddy out of the cot because he, couldn't have his own way. And that's not what you do. If you're on the same lines with the same policies and care about the country, you don't go around trying to destroy a conservative political party that you're supposed to be in line with because you couldn't get your own way. Now, I can't and I will not stand for that. And Clive Palmer wanted to take over One Nation, offered me $10 million, to put into the party. and he wanted control of the board of directors. He had 5 and I had 4. Now, that's not what I built the party for. This is not for sale. This is a party for the people and raising issues and policies that will benefit this country and the people out there. And these people who are so ego-driven, who think they know everything, I've put 30 years of my life into politics, that I'm not just going to hand it over, and I won't let anyone bully me or tell me what they ought to do. One Nation is here. We're growing in strength. We're getting more members elected to Parliament and state and federal level. It's about time, if you want to come on board with One Nation, be a part of it, fair enough. But it's not going to be a split rebel party.
In terms of where One Nation is getting other representatives, not many elections coming up. I know skipping Tasmania, where your daughter almost got in the Senate, will build up, I know, there. But look, you've still had members quit at the state level. It's still continuing to be something that happens with One Nation. You had Sarah Game just a few weeks ago. I think since your party began, about 2/3 of its elected members have left the party within their first term. What's behind that?
Right, I'll tell you what's behind it. The first time was 11 members in Queensland because Peter Beattie deregistered the party. So they said, oh, we'll go, and he said, go and get yourself self-registered again. So they thought they'll go and register their own political party. I said, don't do it. I will get the party re-registered again. They didn't want to lose. They weren't going to lose their job as members of Parliament, but their staff, they wouldn't have the party status. So they went and formed their own political party, although they were elected under One Nation. All but the 3 who went independent lost their seats. One of the members dropped from 46% down to 5%. And yes, I did get the party re-registered again. And yes, I won another 3 seats. Then I had a senator from New South Wales who actually, I was not going to reward him to head the top of the ticket again. So he spat the dummy, and therefore he shopped himself around, and he was taken up by Clive Palmer. He didn't win his seat. And Sarah Game, 2 days beforehand, she gave me the assurance she was with One Nation. She walked away because I would not give her mother the top of the ticket for the next state election. Her mother's had 3 goes at it. Her mother is not, up to the standard. Well, not standard, I shouldn't say standard. She's very good at research. She's worked in my office for 9 years. But she is not a person, I think, after having 3 goes at standing on the ticket for One Nation, has not won elections. So you can't keep endorsing people who can't run campaigns and are unelectable. So her daughter walked away in support of her mother. I think that's disgusting.
Does any of it, I'm talking not just with Sarah Game, and look, we've approached Sarah Game for interview. We're hopeful of getting that at some point. But does any of it over the past 25 years fall on the responsibility of you as the party leader? I mean, is the party only as good as its leader?
Leo,
it has been a notorious problem.
Leo, because when you actually get elected through the hard work of members and volunteers to be a member of Parliament, my passion is to get representation of people of Australia. And these people who get themselves elected and think, oh God, look at me, I'm a senator, I'm a member of Parliament, I can actually then have control and I can do whatever I want to. One member said, look at me, I walk the streets and they think I'm a king. It was just absolutely ridiculous, the attitude. And then, with some of the others, like David Oldfield was another one that got elected. And as soon as he was elected, him with the other 2 members of the party from Western Australia thought they could take over. I walked away from the party then after 13 years. I walked away from the party for 13 years, from 2002 till I came back into it when I was asked to come back and lead the party. And then I had to rebuild the whole lot again. Where are all these people? Where's their dedication? Where's their resilience? Where's their fight? Was it really about the country? Was it about the people? No, they didn't get what they wanted. They never stuck with it. I have run for about 10 or 11 elections, and I've never given up fighting for what I believe is right. I'm here for the long term. I'm here for the fact of what I want to achieve. These people are all ego-driven, self-centered. It's nothing about, the people or the country. And that's why, I'm still here. If they can't get a straight answer and they don't like what I'm telling them, I will not reward laziness. That's why I haven't reappointed. My member of Parliament in Queensland never put up one private member's bill in 6 years. Not one. Would I reward that? Do you think I should reward that? What have they done? Nothing. So anyway, I don't reward that. My time in politics is, slowly coming to an end. Will I going to be here in 10 or 20 years' time? No, I won't. But I've got to grow the party. I've got to get decent people to work on the floor of Parliament to grow the party, and I feel comfortable then handing it over to people that are there for the right reasons. This is not about getting yourself a job. It's more than that. If you think it's just about applying for a job and you're going to get good pay and you're going to sit back and do nothing, don't come and be a candidate for One Nation and think you're going to do that. Won't happen with me around.
Of your three other federal senators, as you said, Malcolm Roberts has obviously been loyal to you in his almost continuous decade of being a senator. The two newly elected, Warwick, Stacey, and Tyron, Whitten, having spoken to them, I imagine you feeling like they are, committed to One Nation. You happy with them?
Very, very much so. I've had a talk with them. They knew how Sarah Game walking away from me for no reason at all, other than she wanted her mother as a babysitter. It was a blow to me. She was doing such a good job for a weak, pathetic excuse to walk away from the party or the people who elected her. Anyway, I have their utmost loyalty. And Malcolm Roberts, he's been an absolute trooper. He's a fantastic guy. And it's all about loyalty. Like Warwick Stacey, he was from the military. And to him, we're speaking today, the main thing that people have to give is their loyalty. And you see it from so many, it's not my party, Leo. How many other parties have you seen? Even the Greens, they all change spots. So they all go and change parties. And, I put forward, and I've made mention that you should be aligned with the party for your term of Parliament, right? If not, give up your seat and do the right thing and hand the seat back to the party, because especially in the Senate, the people vote for the party, not the individual. And that's quite clear because most people vote above the line for the party, not below the line for the individual.
I'm curious, it's a good segue in terms of where there is more voting for the individual. The House of Representatives you, of course, started off as the member for Ipswich, disendorsed Liberal, and then, of course, you went on to form One Nation in the 90s. Interesting looking at the federal election results. The only seat where One Nation was super competitive in the House was Hunter. We obviously spoke to your candidate there. That not a bad performance, and, of course, getting in the two candidate preferred. Do you think One Nation is going to be able to get to a point where you are competitive in multiple House of Representative seats and actually start to hold the balance of power in the lower house as well as in the Senate and actually influence the formation of government?
Leo, look, I'm hopeful that will be the case in time to come. We will win, lower house seats in time to come. But the fact is that we have to prove to the Australian people that our policies are sound, that they have confidence in us to do the job. And that's where strong leadership comes from. That I think people have said, look, I don't necessarily agree with everything that you say, but I trust what you're saying. You've been so consistent with what you've said over the years. People said, now, wish we'd listened to her years ago, because what she said then is actually happening now. So it's by, that trust and confidence you get from people. And they're so distrustworthy of the two major political parties, and they've taken the voters out there for granted. So people have just sort of stuck with them. Oh, well, you have to vote for one or the other. And then you have the voters out there wouldn't have a clue who they're voting for. Oh, what the heck, I'll just vote for this one, same name, whatever. And they go in there and they don't know who they're voting for or why they're voting for them. So hopefully it's up to us as the party's grown, especially over the last 9 years, 10 years since I came back to lead it in 2015. I was asked to come back and lead it again. A party that was absolutely defunct, had nothing, no money, nothing. And I had to rebuild it from there, from the time that I've come back to what we built to this day and age in that matter of 10 years. I think it's been astounding, amazing. I thank the people for their support. I thank them immensely for their vote. And I hope to grow this even further till till my retirement from politics, so I can see more One Nation members on the floor of Parliament, not only in federal, but also state. And we're going to branch out into council as well.
It's actually really interesting. I'm a big follower of local government elections, so I just will touch on what you said there. You are branching into council. There are council elections next year scheduled in SA and Tasmania. Look, One Nation, I mean, maybe you think, well, maybe once or twice in the 90s, but really hasn't touched local government. Why now?
There has been a couple of seats that we've won. We held a council seat in Victor Harbour in South Australia, and he's doing an excellent job there. He will be heading our South Australian Upper House ticket next year for their elections in March. We've also had a councillor elected in Tasmania, so there has been a couple of council spots. But the fact is that we've just now, I've given the nod that we're going to start up branches around the country. So we're launching the ability for people to start up branches. Why I haven't done it just before this is that we've had to actually get the administration side of the party with limited resources and people to run it to actually put everything into place. Now that I feel that we've achieved that, now we will allow people to start up branches, get that involvement from the public and people to join the branches. From the branches, they can get their own candidates, their members, whether they want to stand for local, state or federal. We will allow that, but that's grassroots, people.
I know we talked before about the other parties that are involved kind of on the same spectrum. You've been very clear you're not for sale. There was obviously the Clive Palmer offer that was reported a few months ago that was obviously not taken up for this federal election. I think it has been pretty widely acknowledged, though, that just the amount of so-called freedom parties, right-wing minor parties, whatever you want to call them, that are contesting federal elections, it's a ridiculous amount. There have just been so many. They keep contesting. I know you're not particularly interested in them taking over your party, but talks about things like running coalitions in the Senate to ensure that you don't split the vote. I mean, you came close in Victoria and Tasmania with some better preference flows you might have gotten up there. Are those kind of things possible? Will One Nation go to the negotiating table for things like that?
Well, we do work with the minor parties now when it comes to preferences and where we on our how to vote cards. So we have worked with Family First. We've worked with even the National Party worked closely with us in preferences and seats, all their lower house seats, and also we've worked. A lot of the minor Christian Democrats, different ones that we have, the Libertarians, so we have worked closely with them, Leo. So, that's beneficial in that way to work with them. Like-minded, conservative side of politics parties, yes.
And just finally, you've kind of alluded to it a few times today in terms of your own political future. Have you made a decision yet on what you're going to do in 2028? And if you did decide to recontest, would you go for the full 6 years?
Oh yes, I am recontesting, Leo. I'm definitely standing the next election. Look,
and you will go the full 6?
Leo, I'm going to be honest with you. I've just turned 71. All right, and I'm a realist. And you've got to consider my health, and I'm in fantastic health, all right? I don't feel my age. And also you've got to have the passion and drive to actually do this job. And I think it's most important. As I've said to my staff, if I ever become like a bite and round you, tap me on the shoulder and I'll move on. So until then, I will be recontesting the next election in 2028. Will I do the 6 years? Who knows? And I'm being honest with people. But definitely there. And like I said, as long as I have the confidence from the membership and the other members of Parliament and my staff and everyone there, I will be there as long as I can drive it properly. Like I said, I don't want to become like a Biden.
Well, I'm sure we'll catch up again in the future. Really, really appreciate your time, Senator Pauline Hanson. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks, Leo.